Hello, everybody. This is the Advice Stream. I am your host, Jeremy International. We are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube, and we're live on Twitch. I have made a mistake, as people do sometimes, and I have two guests, and I accidentally told them both to come in the second hour. So I've reached out to see if anyone wants to come in earlier. We'll keep an eye on that. But that means that I don't have a whole lot to do. I don't have a whole lot to do this first hour except hang out. If you're new to the stream, the advice stream is where we hang out. That's about it. The end. I'm Jeremy International. I've have some life experience. I've been around the block a couple times, yada, yada, yada. I'm having some tea. I have a sore throat today. And if you have a problem, if you are in a pickle, if you have a conundrum, if you need advice, then you can ask me, and I bet I can help you out. Maybe not financial advice. I don't know if that's my strongest suit, but all the other types of advice, I think I can help you. So if you would like advice, you can either put it right in the chat on whichever social media platform is your preference, or you can head on over to JeremyInternational.com, and there is a contact form there whereon you can send me a message, and it is anonymous, and I get them right away, and we can talk, and maybe I can help you out. I don't see a lot of people coming in yet. It's early. We're just getting started. Hey, it's Ron. Hey, Ron. Thank you. Did I email you a Zoom? We're just doing this live. Did I email you a Zoom invitation? Because you can just accept on that if you wanna. You could also wait. It's up to you. This is this early on. We don't have a lot of guests yet. Just in case I haven't, let me go ahead and email our first guest, Ron, another link to the Zoom, just in case I didn't do it before, because I don't know. I did. Well, if you're out there, Ron, and you see the email, then go ahead and hit that link, and I'll let you on into the Zoom, and we can hang out. I'm very professional. I'm a professional streamer. And this is what professional streamers do. We do our best all the time. What else can you do, really? But your best is what I say. Last week we did 10 albums that I'm particularly fond of, and I feel like that was fun. If you check that one out, we didn't have any guests. We just did that. If you enjoy that and want to see similar things, I don't know, I could do movies. I could do another 10 albums. I could do video games. I'm playing a really good video game right now I like a lot. It's called Dredge. It's like a spooky fishing simulator where you go around and you fish, but then it's spooky. I got nothing else to describe that, but I really enjoy that game a lot. It's really fun. If you're still out there, Ron, let me know. You can text me, you can put it in the chat, whatever you want. If you got the Zoom invite, a Zoomitation, I just coined that term. And we'll see what happens. But we're just getting started, and sometimes it takes people a little while to trickle in. I'm just kind of looking at all of our different places right now. Hey, can you hear me okay? Like a Zoomitation.
Hi. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna switch it over. And we're just getting started. Can you mute me?
Yeah, one sec. Sorry.
It's okay.
So sorry.
It's okay. I'm sorry,
Um,
I screwed up. This is 100% my fault. Here we go. All right, yeah, yeah. Now it's a show. Hey, Ron, I'm sorry that I screwed up. It's been, a thing. It's been a whole thing. How's it going, man? I haven't seen you in a while.
it's going good.
That's good.
Um,
It's good to be good, right?
yeah. Um, it's good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while.
I know. Yeah, it's been a long time. Um, Ron and I go way back. How do we know each other? How do we know each other, Ron? You are old friends with my wife.
So, it's funny because just so our friend Crunk is in town,
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
and she's kind of I've missed her like probably the last 3 times she's been here. So finally, we were able to connect, and I guess the last few times, I think she wouldn't have been able to meet up anyway because she was just doing some family stuff. But when I was having dinner the other night, I realized it was like all the people that Freddie invited to kind of like meet you for the first time.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
And so that meeting you at her place, because you had gone on so many dates and becoming a thing, and she wanted us to meet you, and that's the story. That's how we met,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the rest is history.
I remember that night well, because that's a great gang of people. It was a blast, man. That was a very long time ago, so long ago, and um, now we have a kid. And speaking of which, OMG, Fred Undead has just joined us on Twitch. Hi, Fred. Thanks for
Bye,
joining.
Fred.
Thanks for joining the stream. It is very light so far. Uh, Ron, if you haven't followed the show before, a big part of my audience comes from a really good friend of mine's meme page who has kind of been uh, like attacked by harassers, and it's been kind of shut down. So now I'm worried. What if that was always my only audience, and now I got nobody? But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But we only have a couple people over on Twitch, a couple people on YouTube, and some folks on. No one's ever on Facebook. Does anyone even use Facebook anymore? Facebook's a big old egg. But if you're joining the stream now, this is the advice stream. I'm your host, Jeremy International. Our special guest for the first hour is Ron Soltes. Am I saying that right?
That's one of the ways people said it. It's right.
Okay. Thank you. And Ron and I go way back. Ron is frontman from Nunchucks, who I've seen a couple times and was always a blast. I know you guys, the same thing with my live act is a little on hiatus these days, but hopefully we'll do a show together someday soon. And one of the things I wanted to talk about, and we do have some advice questions we'll get into. I have at least 2 for this hour that I think are a blast. But also, and I see you got a poster behind you. Ron and I are big Spider-Man fans. Ron's got probably the best Spider-Man tattoo I've ever seen. And so we always bond over that. I don't have any, I have one comic book tattoo. I have a Scott Pilgrim tattoo, and it's terrible. It's my worst tattoo. But I'd love to get a Spider-Man tattoo. So we're gonna talk about Spider-Man as well. Just kind of looking around here. Yeah. Oh man, we got nobody. That's fine. People show up, and this is recorded, so people could be watching it in the future. Ron, do you want to do an advice question?
Sure.
Okay, this is a weird one, and I have strong feelings about it.
Okay.
But I want to get your take as well. Excuse me. I'm also a little sick today. Okay. My mother is in her 60s. This isn't me, by the way. This is a question someone wrote in, and I'm just reading it out loud. My mother is in her 60s, and due to various health issues, I often take her on errands and to her appointments. She decided a few months ago that her pet dog was going to be her service dog, not my quotes, and has started taking him with her. She even got him an official looking service dog vest from Amazon. He is not a
Official.
he is not a service dog. He doesn't have any medical she doesn't have any medical conditions that service dogs can help with, and this dog is not trained to perform any specific tasks to help her. He's not even a well-behaved dog. He often pulls on his leash, tries to wander, and jumps on people. We frequently get looks where we're in stores and other places with him. Twice, employees have asked her if he is a service dog. She says yes. And which task he is trained to perform. She says, not my quotes, support me. I looked it up, and that's all they're legally allowed to ask. They didn't seem to know what to do when she didn't admit he wasn't a service dog. Even when no one says anything. I'm mortified to be with her when she's doing this. How do I get her to stop?
Wow.
Yeah, wow. That's so much
Uh,
drama, right? I don't know who writes these in. They come in through my website. Maybe this one isn't real, although it sounds like it could be. And at least I know one or two people whose mom I could see doing this. Not at anyone you know, but there are people in my life at least sometimes.
oh, this could be very real. And actually, I was at the where was I? I was at the doctor's the other day,
Hmm.
and um, this woman had her pet, and it had the vest and everything, and she wanted to bring it inside where the other patients were, and they're like asking questions and stuff, and and eventually they asked for documentation,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she was like, I've never been asked for that, and I don't even think you're supposed to. And so it was like, it wasn't like a huge scene, but it wasn't not a scene. So this, I feel like this is a very real thing, or
um,
could.
it could be. So I have strong feelings about this. First off, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm legally obligated to tell people I'm not a lawyer. But I suspect this is against the law. There's probably some kind of punishment in most places in the United States for falsely representing that your dog is a service dog. Hey, Hamster Man, thanks for joining us. Hamster Man's just coming in on the Twitch. Since we have a few people showing up, let me take a quick call break. This is the Advice Stream. I'm your host, Jeremy International. Our special guest for the first hour is my old friend, rock and roll star, comic book aficionado, Ron Soltes. We just going over a bizarre advice question about a person writing in whose mother does not have a service dog, has a regular dog who she presents to the world as her service dog and appears to be lying to people in public places so she can carry her dog around. I mean, here's my take. I'll start, and then you go. Let me know if you disagree with me.
Okay.
First off, she says that her mother has various health issues. So maybe she does need a service dog. This dog ain't it. But, service dogs can help people with all kinds of things that aren't apparent. And I can also say something I don't necessarily talk about a lot, but disability doesn't always look like the way people think disability looks. I'm
Right.
I am a disabled person, but I only sometimes, and then other times I'm okay. So I think she has an absolute right to be uncomfortable with this because it's a lie in a very real sense that could potentially harm the next person with the service dog that really needs one. And then the people working in the store have an expectation that it's all baloney. But at the same time, I don't know, give her a break. Like she has various health issues. That's a direct quote from the thing. Maybe she needs a little bit of emotional support in public places, and she's not able to say that she does. But if she's breaking the law, maybe get a lawyer to talk to her and scare her into getting a real service dog. That's my take. What's yours? What do you think?
I feel like I have more advice for
Okay.
the for the fake service dog than the actual
All
than the
right, that's
actual
good.
person asking for advice.
Uh huh.
I would tell fake service dog to fake it till you make it,
Yep.
and to also get a service dog, a real service dog, to help you and your
The service dog needs
to
a
help.
service dog.
Yeah. Um, well, this is a tough one. I hmm. Well, cause like I don't know. It's kind of like self-medicating with the wrong medication.
Yeah.
Um,
Or like, what is the? It's a mental illness when you try to you actually deliberately make yourself sick so people give you more attention. Munchausen syndrome, where it's not like you pretend to be sick. So I guess that's not really what this is. It's where you actually like make yourself sick. You eat like rotten food on purpose,
oh,
so you
I've
get
never heard
food
of that one.
poisoning and people pay attention to you. Yeah, it's this now that I'm saying that out loud, this isn't that because she's just lying to people.
Yeah.
She's not making herself need a service dog.
Yeah, the hard thing about it is that she has various health problems, and so she just has a hard time feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
And apparently, the fake service dog, makes her feel comfortable.
Yeah. Uh, if that's what it is, and that's what it seems like, assuming positive intentions from other people, that the dog is doing something to help her
Yeah,
navigate stressful, complicated. I mean, I would have preferred if I could have after being in lockdown pandemic for 3 years, if I could bring my cat with me when I went back out to stores and stuff, that probably would have helped me get through it a little bit more. I just hope that she doesn't get like busted, because that'd be too bad.
it seems like one of those things that, like you said, there probably are laws and stuff, but there are probably things that just aren't enforced. You know?
Yeah, I mean, how could they if all they're allowed to do is ask what service
Yeah,
is he trained for? Then maybe that's it. Hamster Man on Twitch says the poor service dog probably has imposter syndrome. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean,
I
that's the
can.
great thing about dogs is they have like the least amount of self-awareness, they're just dogging around. So I think the dog probably thinks it's the best service dog that there ever was. I mean, what else is the point in dogs, really, if not that?
I, I don't know though. Like if you try to treat a pug like it's a border collie, that's not gonna
Okay, that's a good
that's
point.
not that's not gonna go over
Yeah, and
well.
actually, I don't really know dogs all that well. I like dogs. I have nothing against dogs. I've never had like a pet dog before, so I'm not a dogologist. All right. Well, so I think we're in agreement that what the mom is doing is some flavor of wrong. But is it so wrong that this woman has to get mixed up with it and try to get her mom to stop? I don't know the answer to that. The dog is doing something that makes her happy. And she's 60 and she's got various health issues, so let her be happy. Let her hang out with her dog in the store.
I think I don't know if this is like out of the question, but the best I could do is like, how could we like? Is it possible to get this dog some training
Yeah,
so
I
that
was just thinking that when you started talking. Yeah, can you make the dog into a service dog? Is it too late to
it's
just
probably
make the lie real?
I don't know anything about training dogs for those particular things. I imagine it's too late, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I just assume that it's too late.
Cool. All right. One question down. If you're watching out there and you would like to seek advice from some combination of myself and Ron, please head over to JeremyInternational.com. There's a contact form there. I'll get those immediately once you send them. They can be anonymous, and we'll discuss your questions, and hopefully we can come to a solution that works for you. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitch. We are live on Facebook. And we're live at JeremyInternational.com. Okay, Ron, so let's talk Spider-Man for a minute.
Okay.
I feel like we're in there he is. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of Spider-Mans, persons there. I feel like we're in kind of a renaissance of Spider-Man. I mean, Spider-Man's been a big part of popular culture for a long time, but like with what was it, No Way Home, which was such a good movie, and bringing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield back to be their Spider's man as well. And then, you know, the Spider-Verse that just came out this week as we're broadcasting this. I know this is a big question that I'm just throwing at you, but I'm kind of riffing here because I think it's an interesting topic to discuss. What is it, do you think, has made Spider-Man? Spider-Man came out, what, like 63? So that's been 60 years, right? Why has he been around so long? Why is he such a big deal? Why do we all know? My kid, who's not quite 3 years old yet, loves Spider-Man. She has a Spider-Man book. We got Spider-Man all over the house. I would have, even if I didn't have a kid, but you know. So what's the deal? Why do you think Spider-Man persists?
For me, first and foremost, it like before, because you know, when I first found out about Spider-Man, I was just a little kid, so I wasn't really thinking about, oh, you know, because I can relate to the problems he's having as a teenager. I wasn't a teenager yet. That would eventually be one of the reasons, but it wasn't. So the first thing was cool ass costume. That was like number one.
Yeah.
Eventually, as I continued to love Spider-Man, like over the years, it became, oh yeah, like this is a kid who, despite having these powers, just doesn't have things figured out like any other teenager. And I identified with that. And then he kind of grew up before me, obviously. Obviously, aging is super slow in comics, but like,
but he does age, which is,
yeah.
I mean, almost no one else does. Like his situation in life progresses
Right.
in a very slow way, but in a way that all of our lives have, which I think
But,
is really cool.
yeah, and the beauty of it all is you can go back and read stories about, you know, whatever time you're in. So, like, when I was in college, I could read about him being in college, things like that, like back issues and whatnot. And with or not comicsology, but now you can just read whatever issue you want.
Yeah.
Pay for the service. And but I think for a lot of people as well, a very universal thing is just loss. You know, being someone that has lost a parent kind of before their time. I identified with that more around that time, that more than ever, obviously. It was the first person I ever lost that was close to me, or I think it was the first person I ever lost. It was my father. And so that part started to hit harder.
Yeah, wow.
And so everyone goes through loss at some point. And so I think literally anyone could, you know, identify with a Spider-Man story.
Yeah.
If not various.
That's a really great insight, and that's really well put. I have a cold. Sorry. We're doing it anyways. You know, from my perspective, I think you're right that a lot of the drama from Spider-Man stories comes from regular, like mundane, everyday stuff. Like the fighting the bad guys is only part of his story, and oftentimes it's a small part of his story. And his relationship issues are like money problems. Peter Parker always has money problems. I think that's one of the things that maybe not today, but for most of those, however long it's been, 60 years, has made him a unique character that people really connect to, because he struggles in the same way a lot of us do. And Spider-Man's biggest struggle is that he has this deep sense of responsibility to do what's right, even when it's really, really hard for him to do it. And I think that's the thing, uh, that's integrity. That's what integrity means, is doing the right thing even when it's hard. And we see that so rarely in our society. I think we see it less today than we have any, at least not any time in recent history. But that's always been a thing that I don't think people do. Is when the right thing is hard to do, most people don't do it. When the wrong thing is easy to do, most people do it. And his Spider-Man's really insistence on doing what's right when it's hard, and it's always hard for him, is what really connects to me. Superman, is easy for Superman to do the right thing. He can do anything. It's easy for Captain America to do the right thing because he just knows what the right thing is. It's easy for him. He's Captain America. Spider-Man's nobody. He's just some guy, and he doesn't have a lot of resources. He doesn't have a lot of like time because he has like a social life and a family and obligations. Anyways, that's what I think. That's what I like about Spider-Man the most. Do you have like for people watching that maybe aren't really invested in comics or movies about comics or whatever, do you have like a Spider-Man moment that you wish that more people would experience? I think I have one, but I think like everyone saw the most recent movies. They were many billions of dollar movies. But what about something that maybe other people haven't seen?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know that I have my really good answer. I'll probably think of it like after this is over. But um,
I know it's a doozy. While you're thinking, I'll give you mine. And
okay,
you
I'd
and
love
I
to
are
hear
of a
yours.
similar age, and I think we grew up probably reading the same comics. But
Yeah.
it must have been somewhere in the early, and I'll look this up and I'll put it in the blog at JeremyInternational.com. But it must have been somewhere in the early to mid 90s when Spider-Man was a huge, huge moneymaker comic. Marvel was selling millions of issues every day. It was the at least financially a golden age for them. There was a arc in the title at the time that was just called Spider-Man. It was done by Eric Larson, and it's called Revenge of the Sinister Six. So the Sinister Six comes out, they go into some alternate dimension or something. They get all these giant guns and weapons and stuff. And Spider-Man, for most of the story, it runs for 6 or 7 issues, I think, is all by himself, just trying to keep up with them in all of these horrible things they're doing. And he's pushing himself to his limits. And this is when he and Mary Jane are married, and she's worried about him, and he's not resting, he's not eating, he's not giving himself time to like heal from his injuries. He's just going, going, going. And there's a lot of panels of her being really worried about him, and there's a lot of panels of him just like kind of going for broke. But this is a spoiler, the big fight at the end where there's a confrontation, and everybody else, the Fantastic Four and Ghost Rider and the Hulk, all come in to help him fight at the end. And he's not alone anymore, but he's all by himself up until that point. And it's just one of those things where he's having such a hard time, but he keeps going because that's what he does.
I know mine, but I can't reference which Doctor Strange comic it is.
Okay.
It's a fairly recent one over the last, I don't know, three to 4 years. But so my favorite parts are the parts that we don't really get to see. Do you remember some of that pop art that came out some years ago of like, I forgot which artist. I wish I remembered which artist did it, but it would be of like DC or Marvel comic characters like sitting on a toilet or picking out a wedgie.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
remember those?
I've seen those.
And I think one person did it and then a bunch of people did it. So I don't know who to give credit to. But anyway, those are the kind of fun things that I like stories about, the stuff that's supposed to be in between the panels that you're not really supposed to see, right?
Right.
So there's a Doctor Strange comic where Peter goes to see Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange isn't really, for whatever reason, isn't really seeing people at the moment, and because it's Peter, he kind of like begrudgingly lets him in and speaks to him because
Uh,
Peter's being needy, and he doesn't want to be a good friend, but ultimately he is. He lets him in, and um, so long story short, Peter he he wanted to know what it was like to like he wanted to talk to a spider because a lot of people think that he can talk to spiders.
right. That's funny.
It's like one of the things that they ask him if he can do.
Uh-huh.
And it's something that, like, as ridiculous as it seemed like over the years, apparently he always wanted to do it. And
I don't know this one. That sounds hysterical.
uh, after, I'm gonna find it and send it to you.
Okay.
So so I guess Doctor Strange is the only guy I could think of that could like give this to him.
Right. Find a way to
And,
make that work.
but he kind of skirts around it. Like he kind of like beats around the bush. And then when Strange realizes what he wants, and he says it instead of Peter telling him, like he has these like big anime eyes, like super excited type
Uh-huh.
eyes. And then so Strange is like, all right. So he just does it, and he's like talking to this spider. And the spider's asking him questions, about his powers and stuff. And it's just kind of like it's just kind of like Marvel making fun of itself, like
Yeah.
Spider-Man making fun of itself. And he's like, "Your powers don't really make sense. Like that's not really what a spider does." And so him and the spider are just chopping it up, and
uh,
like it's amazing.
I very much want to read that. I have a Marvel Unlimited subscription, so I'm sure. Do you remember? Is it a Doctor Strange title or is it a Spider-Man title?
The it's a Doctor Strange
Okay.
title.
Yeah, a few years
Um,
ago, what's his name? Chris Bacalo was doing the artwork for Doctor Strange, and he's one of my favorite artists these days. Even going back to the '90s. I'll do a little. I sometimes do an unofficial sponsor, so I'll do an unofficial sponsorship. This episode of the Advice Stream is unofficially brought to you by Marvel Unlimited. It's like $10 a month, and you can read every Marvel comic pretty much since the 30s up until 6 months ago, and it's a rolling 6 months. And they have really easy to access guides. If you're not into comics and you want to get into Marvel comics, this app, and you don't want to ask someone like me or Ron about how to get started, why wouldn't you ask us? We'd help you. But the app has all kinds of guides like, oh, you're into Guardians of the Galaxy. This is a good place to start. You're into Captain Marvel. This is a good place to start. So it's a really cool app. It has a lot of great features in it. At least the notifications on my phone never work. I don't know why. I have it set to notify me when new issues of a series come out, and it never does. But otherwise, it's a great app. I'm a big fan. And for $10 a month, having access to like everything, if you want to read Captain America comics from World War II, you can do that.
yeah,
If you want to read all of the nonsense from the '90s that we grew up with, you can do that too. So
I like reading the old Spider-Man,
yeah,
like original OG
yeah,
Spider-Man.
all the Steve Ditka original. Those I feel like
Yeah,
those are still great. The
they
old
they
Steve
are.
Ditka also did the earliest Doctor Strange books, and those I've read most of that stuff from the '60s. Still good, still holds up.
And
It's
obviously
oh
all the stuff on the 90s that I grew up on, I like to
yeah, a lot of that doesn't hold up.
rehash
Some of
them.
it does, but a lot of that has aged poorly. But stuff from the
Just
'60s is
yeah,
great.
just for nostalgia. I mean, like it
Oh yeah,
definitely has aged poorly,
yeah.
especially the
Sometimes I bring it up and just look at the art for nostalgia reasons.
90s. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let's do another little reminder for everybody. This is the Advice Stream. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitch. We're live on Facebook. If you'd like to seek advice, please do so at JeremyInternational.com. I'm your host, JeremyInternational. I am joined here with my old friend Ron. We've been talking about Spider-Man. We've been talking about people that lie about service dogs and what people should do about it. You want to do another? This is a long one. And I'm going to go ahead and say I take a 10-minute break and then I move on to our second guest at about 10 till. So I think I got time to read this and we can discuss for a little bit. You want to do one more?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. This one pisses me off. Way more than the other one did. I have a boyfriend of 7+ years. 7+ years, that's a long time to be with somebody. We are both in our 40s and have teenage children from previous relationships. We live in separate houses in the same city for various logistical reasons. I really want to know what those are. Last summer, he was seriously injured in a bike crash, and his mother, who lives in a different state, came to take care of him. Once again, not my quotes. Which involved her turning up to run the show. I became a visitor on par with his casual friends, and we were allowed 10-minute visiting windows. When I pointed out this was inappropriate, we are partners, she banned me from seeing him. Semi-conscious, I guess what they're saying is he was semi-conscious at the time. I went months without seeing my partner. He needed the care. I was working full-time while she stayed at his house and didn't want me to see him, which meant I couldn't see him at all. He recovered, but now she pretends I don't exist. This means I was prohibited from their Christmas gatherings, one weekend, blah, 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 blah. None of that's relevant. She pointedly excluded me from a 10-day vacation to Aruba. I've never been to Aruba. Flash forward, yada, yada, yada. She continues to come to town for long weekends, holidays, and birthdays. During these times, I cease to exist. My partner doesn't consult me about these visits in advance, or he acts as if he has no say, or that saying no is sacrificing his and his son's relationship with his mother. I beg my partner for any sort of compromise. Maybe he could spend just the night with me because I'm shattered. While he spends days with her, etc., blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of superfluous information. He characterizes me as needy and controlling. She's needy and controlling. I'm exhausted by the situation. Am I wrong to want to leave? No. You're not wrong. I mean, this guy's made a decision. He had to choose between having a healthy relationship with his mother or not having his 7+ year girlfriend in his life. And he chose to not have a healthy relationship with his mother. So that's it. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Wow.
I don't get any boring advice questions, by the way. They're all like this. They're all ridiculous.
This is a doozy. I thought the first one was bad.
Yeah, and it's both crazy moms. Moms can sometimes be a little difficult. I understand. My mom's great.
But this has like levels to it though, because like the fact that they don't live together.
Yeah, that's weird to me too.
They're not married, right?
Boyfriend, 7+ years.
That's a thing right there. So that I'm not saying that marriage like makes a relationship more legitimate.
Yeah. But moving in does.
Yeah.
Marriage is a construct. Moving in is real.
And again, we don't know those like logistical reasons or whatever. But I feel like, before throwing in the towel, it's like, well, don't you want to, like, I don't know all the details, but like, don't you want to try living together just to see if that will, like, despite the logistical whatevers, like, do that first before throwing in the towel, before throwing away 7.5 years or whatever it was?
That's a good point. That's a take I didn't think about. I really need to know if the person that wrote this is listening in. If you want to hop on over back, you know how to do it. You did it once already, to the contact form on the website, and just send me what are the logistical reasons why You haven't moved in. I'm assuming it has something to do with kids because they both have teenage
Oh, that's
children,
right.
and maybe they don't want to
Right.
disrupt. But like, what does teenage mean? Like 17 and 18, then they're on their way out anyways. So just move in together. I don't know.
Yeah, and of course it's not as, I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds, but it's like if that hasn't been tried yet, like it,
Yeah,
you would you would want to probably do that before. I mean, I'm sure Brady bunching is not easy, but
I'm sure that it's not. But you know what else isn't easy, Ron? Is figuring out like sleepover arrangements for more than 7 years is not
yeah,
easy. Like, do they
right.
have pets? Like, what, when they're like, are their kids sleeping in the house by themselves? Sometimes, like, that one of the reasons people move in together is because it's easier if you're in a
Mhm.
relationship and you do the types of things people in relationships do. It's a whole lot easier to do that when you live under the same roof.
Yeah. I feel like even if I had all of the information, I still wouldn't be able to offer any insight on this. But that's my, I guess that's the best I could do is explore that possibility because it seems like it's the last, what do you call it?
The last
Uh,
step.
yeah, it's like the
Yeah.
missing piece, the missing step.
I I get what you're saying, and I think that's a good point. And I'm not saying that's not something that they should consider doing. They have reasons why they haven't moved in for more than 7 years. And I think, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got is Hamster Man on Twitch says, in my head canon, the first question was from the boyfriend, and it's the same mother. Yeah. That my
That's
boyfriend's
great.
mother pretends to have a service dog and they have no boundaries in their life whatsoever. It's just like it's the mono mom. Every story about a difficult mom goes back to the same. Um I people, so one of the best pieces of advice I ever got is like when someone tells you who they are, you should listen. And people shouldn't have to make um decisions between their romantic partners and their family, but they should have to make decisions about having healthy relationships. And
Yeah,
no one should ever ask this guy, well, it's either me or your mom. But I think that it's reasonable to say it's either me or having healthy boundaries with your mom. And
yeah,
the mom is 100 times out of line here over and over and over again. And he's chosen to not stand up to her and to let him steamroll all over him to get what she wants. And that isn't a person that anyone should be in a relationship with. That's not an
right.
adult person. That's a baby
Yeah,
that has all kinds of mess going on with their parents, and no one needs to deal with that. You know,
right. And obviously, if he's not willing to do like his share to make the thing work
yeah,
in whatever format it's gonna work out in, like she should definitely go.
yeah. And when she tries to have some kind of compromise, which is what healthy people do, he's
Yeah.
called her needy and controlling. And so like he doesn't like her. He doesn't have respect for her, and he doesn't want to deal with her in any way that's not easy for not even easy for him, easy for his mom. And
Yeah.
I don't have any patience for that nonsense.
Yeah. That just sounds like gaslighting 101 right
Yeah.
there.
They're both in their 40s. She needs to go find someone that acts like they're in their 40s.
Right.
And I'll be the first person to admit I don't always have I have a big complicated family, and I don't always have the best boundaries with family situations, but I got a whole lot better than this.
Yeah, this one's a doozy.
Yeah. Anyways, good
Uh,
luck, letter writer. I hope that you wrap it up with this dude. Get yourself back up out on the apps, and I'm sure you'll find someone who's gonna not call you things like needy and controlling when you're just trying to have like a relationship.
yeah.
I say it's time to go on. All right. Speaking of moving on, Thanks for joining us, Ron. I'm sorry about the confusion at the beginning of the hour.
It's all right.
I have I got 3 or 4 spoons on a good day to rub together to get through this, and I think I got a little bit less than that today. But it was great talking to you. We should hang out soon. There's a new Spider-Man movie. Have you seen it yet?
Twice.
Twice. This is why when you have kids, I ain't got time to see that movie right now. I really want to. The first one was so good. I'll leave you on this. I don't know if you know this or not, but Marvel's deal with Sony is that Sony has to have a Spider-Man movie in production at least every 2.5 years. It doesn't need to come out, but they have to have a production. They can't go 2.5 years without having something in production. That's why we're getting animated movies and live action movies going back and forth. Because they work on that very different types of movies work on a very different schedule, but they can't go if they go 2.5 years without a movie in production, the rights go back to Disney.
But for example, like the Craven movie counts in that. And
that's a really good question. I'm not 100% sure.
I imagine it would. That's the only reason why they would be doing it. Like Madam Web.
Yeah, I know.
Don't get me wrong. I love Madam Web as a Spider-Man lover.
Right, but like her own movie. But also, like, Craven's a cool character, but I don't understand why he gets his own movie. He's not that interesting of a character out of the context of Spider-Man. Yeah, like, what is he going to be? Like, the cool thing about Craven is he's like a hunter, but he's in the city. And he's hunting, Spider-Man swinging through the skyscrapers instead of being in a jungle. And who's he going to be hunting in this? Is it going to be Spider-Man? I don't know. I don't care. That's the problem. I don't care. Not interested.
Same. I'll watch it, but I don't care.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go. Eventually. All right, Ron. This was great. It was nice catching up with you. We should hang out. Soon. I'll see you later. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Take care. And there we go. All right, well, there goes Ron. Thanks again, Ron. That was great. Cool dude, Ron. Always fun talking to Ron. We've been to the movies a bunch together before we moved away. But hopefully we'll see Ron again soon. Let's look at some of the... Oh, Eichel's here. Hey, Eichel. New Spider-Man is beautiful. That's what I have heard. Hamsterman on Twitch says... Saw it with my almost 2-year-old yesterday at the Alamo Draft House. Hamsterman, we need to talk. Because my kid, if your kid's almost 2, my kid's almost 3, so we're a year ahead of you. And I would love to take my kid to the movies. But I'm scared. I'm also scared to take her on an airplane. What if she ruins it for everybody? I want to know what your procedure is for bringing your kid to the movies. Because nothing would make me happier than bringing my kid to the movies. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. And when we come back, we're going to have our second guest, Lauren Kelly, photographer extraordinaire. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. Also a person I go way back with. But we're going to take a little break. And I will see you in 10 minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Hello. This is the Advice Stream. I'm your host, Jeremy International. Our special guest in the second hour is I'm just realizing how old of a friend, Lauren Kelly. Lauren is joining us from
So old.
so old. I mean,
So
old in that we're old people and also old that our
Yes.
friendship is old, both of those. Lauren and I go way, way back. We've probably known each other for like 15 years or something like that. And we haven't seen each other in years, but you know, that's how life goes. Lauren Kelly, I think of you just because most of our interactions for the last many years have been on Instagram. I think of you as Lauren Kelly, the photographer. Like that's my first thought when I see your stuff. You think of me probably as Jeremy Frank, the lame nerd that sits in front of his computer all day, which is cool.
Not even close.
We have so just to bring everyone up to speed, if you're just joining us, Lauren, I don't know if you've seen the show before, but we're live on YouTube, we're live on Twitch, and we're live on Facebook. I'm getting the comments, I'm getting the chats from all of those places delivered immediately. So there's a person on Twitch that knows you that says hi, Lauren. That's Hamsterman2049. Hamsterman, can I say your name? Can I say your real name so Lauren knows who you are? Let me know. There's a minute or so delay from when I say something to usually when I get a reply.
Cool.
But we're here to give advice. Lauren is a mom and I'm a dad, and we have separate kids. And I don't know why I felt like I had to say that. But we can give advice not just about parenting stuff, but about life. We both have lived life and hopefully continue to do so. I really should write a script for this someday.
Yeah, that's all right. You know what? I loved it. It was perfect. Off the cuff.
But if you would like to seek advice, throw it into the chat if you don't want to be anonymous. If you do want to be anonymous, head on over to JeremyInternational.com. There's a contact form there. I won't read out your email address. I did that once by accident, and I won't do it again. We do have 2 questions that let's catch up a little bit, but we'll mingle, and we'll get to those shortly.
Sounds good. I love it.
So you have this is the parent hour. So you have 5-year-old twins. Can you?
Yes.
What is that like? How I don't understand. I don't understand
Okay.
how it's possible.
Totally. It's insane. So I'm gonna like take a half a step back though, because last time you and I like met in real life, I was married to my now ex-wife.
Okay.
We got divorced, and that kind of like sparked like a big life change for me. And during that process, I was like, I am going to end up being somebody's mom. I just know. I just like feel it. I just like feel it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And I met my partner, Cassie. She's got, well, she at the time had twins. They were 3 when I met them.
Okay.
And Cassie and I like immediately, we just like knew there was like something special. It was kind of funny. Like our first date, we wound up randomly at Target shopping for the kids, and strangers were like commenting on our energy. It was like very like cliche and very cute. And then I met the kids, and we went to a little Jeremy, I'm telling you, honey, it's so cliche. We went to a farmer's market together. Okay?
Wow.
And like the kids had a lemonade to share. It was very sweet. But we just kind of like immediately all clicked and like fit. It was like I just like felt immediately right. So I have a boy and a girl. My daughter Addie is incredible. She's like the coolest, funniest kid I know. She loves art. She's so creative. It's incredible. And my son, his name's Bowie, like David Bowie.
Wow.
And he loves yeah. Dude, and he loves to tell everybody that.
Yeah.
Sometimes he tells people he is David Bowie, which is also my favorite.
Our kid is gonna be 3 in a few weeks, and she also loves David Bowie. We have like a little kids book about David Bowie, and it's her favorite. It's the little something series. Anyway, she loves that book. And at the
Yeah.
end, there are all of these little pictures of the different like styles of David Bowie. And she looks at it and she's like, that's David Bowie, that's David Bowie, that's David Bowie. And her favorite David Bowie is Aladdin Sane, you know, David Bowie with the lightning bolt over his eye.
Yeah. Yeah.
My favorite, and I love David Bowie. My favorite David Bowie is like Berlin era where his hair is slicked back and he's got like big lapels and his shirt's open and he's smoking.
Yep.
Yeah, anyways.
I knew you long enough to know that makes sense.
That's so great. Those sound like amazing kids. Here's the thing that blows my mind every day of being a parent is our kid didn't exist. She was nothing. And then she came about and, and for the first year or so, they're really just kind of like a difficult plant to take care of. You don't get a lot of back from them. It's just a lot of work. You don't get much in return. But now she's almost 3 and she's a person and she has feelings and she has thoughts and she shares them and she communicates and she will listen to a song and say, I like that. And she'll listen to another song and say, I don't like that. And how does that happen? How do people become people? Obviously it happens to everyone since the beginning of humanity, but seeing it happen firsthand is insane. Is insane to me that people just become people. Crazy.
Yeah, no, it is pretty amazing. Like, watching both of them, they're just so different. Our son has spina bifida, and so he has like a very different like journey than Adeline does, but he is incredible and he's like so positive and is like the hardest working, toughest human I know. He just had surgery recently to help with his basically his posture.
Yeah.
And my guy has like just been through more in his little life than like most people have been through in their entire lives. And he does it. And he lights up every room he walks into because he has such an incredible personality. He's just like such a cool guy. It's the coolest to watch. I'm with you like 100% there.
Yeah, it's wild. So going back to the chat, so Hamsterman 2049 is Ben Horn, who also has a kid. Our old coworker, we all worked on the same team at the Apple Store a million years ago.
Oh my gosh. Hey Ben, how the hell are you, man?
Yeah, I know. I for almost all of my life I didn't want to have kids. I was certain I didn't want to have kids. Yeah. And I had a lot of pretty gnarly surgery on my lower abdomen in my late teens and early 20s. And they said, there's a chance after this you won't be able to have kids anymore. Do you want to get a sample frozen in case, for later in case that happens? Yeah. And I was like, I don't want to have a kid. And why would, no way. And I was certain of that for a long time. And then, in 2017, I got cancer. I'm fine now, more or less. And that changed my outlook. Like, that was the first thing. Both of us, I was married already, and both of us my wife was probably like, maybe I could have a kid, maybe or not, I don't know. And I was like, I know for sure I don't want to. And then we both came out of that, and we're like, yeah, I want to have a kid now. Because things like that change your life. Change. We were talking about this when we were doing the test Zoom. Change is always good, especially when you have some control over it. And life's crazy. You never end up where you think you're gonna, but you always end up in a good place, hopefully.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to. So I just hit 40. Just hit that milestone.
Mm-hmm. I'm 4 years ahead of you, by the way, just to give us a little starting point there.
Okay, good. Well, I see. Well, you know what's beautiful though is that you look exactly the same from the last time I saw you about 10 years ago. And I hope you say the damn same about me.
I absolutely do. I complimented your hair then, and I'll do it now too. I think I have a little less hair. I've gotten a little like I'm actually like gaining weight for the first time in my life. Like I've been chronically underweight my whole life, but now I'm almost like normal weight, which is good. Well, also, we lived in a city where I walked everywhere, and now we live in a city, but the type of city you have to drive. So I'm more sedentary than I've ever been in my life. So maybe that's always what I needed to do, was just walk less. And that is healthier for me.
somehow, but if it works for you, then that's what's up. Yeah, I mean, change is just like change. Well, I'll say this. You said change that you can control. And, I think getting to the place where you try to realize like how much of control or what you try to control is like an illusion
Yeah.
is a big turning point in like a person's healing journey.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I guess what I mean is the change that happens when you get hit by a bus is bad change.
yeah.
But like the
for
change when you're like, I got hit by that bus and now I know that I'm going to look left and right before I cross the street. That's good
Fair
change.
Fair enough.
You like that? That was a good analogy.
Yeah, that was great. I like that.
So do you wanna do a question? You want to do an advice question?
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'm totally down.
To give you a heads up, the 2 questions in the last hour, one was a person wrote in that their mom has started to pretend that her regular dog is a service dog and got a special harness from Amazon and goes around telling people this is my service dog when it's not. It's a poorly trained dog, doesn't provide a service for anybody. And then the second one was they were both about challenging moms. The second one was this woman who's in her 40s. She has had a boyfriend for more than 7 years. They didn't live together. He was in an accident and needed like around the clock care for a little while. So his mom came, and his mom didn't like something about his girlfriend, who is the letter writer, is the girlfriend, and banned her from seeing him for months until he was well. And now she comes to visit unannounced all the time, and he just goes along with it. He's like, yeah, my mom's here, so you can't come around. She doesn't want to see you, so she wins. And she's like, should I break up with him? And me and Ron, my first guest, were more or less in agreement that yes, that's when you have a little bit of change that you feel like you have some control over, is you don't see the guy that's chosen to have no boundaries with his mom over having a relationship. Okay, so here's one. I think this also might actually mention another challenging mom. I don't remember. Last year, I lent my brother an expensive piece of photography equipment. After a few months, his wife sold it on eBay. I didn't find out about it until I asked for it back for a project. He apologized and said it was an accident. She thought the equipment was his. He offered to buy a replacement, but I said there was no need. Fast forward a year later, my brother asked me to borrow another piece of equipment, which I mailed him at the beginning of the pandemic. This week, I got a text from my brother asking if he could sell it on eBay and if he could keep the money. I told him I'd rather he didn't. It's my equipment, but I'd be happy to let him borrow money if he needed it. Today, my mom called me. Moms, people not having boundaries with their moms. Today, my mom called out of the blue and to tell me my brother complained to her that I wouldn't let him sell my equipment, even though I clearly didn't need it. I'm a grad student. My brother makes more money than me. I was so offended, especially since he went and complained to our mom. So this person sent their brother a piece of expensive photography equipment. The brother or his wife sold it by accident, which I don't buy for a second in this story. And then the person naively let their brother borrow another piece of equipment. And now he's asking if he can sell it and keep the money. And he's bringing the mom in because he said, no, I don't want you to sell my expensive equipment on eBay. It's mine. Give it back to me.
Yeah, this is like a really interesting like family dynamic going on here,
Yeah.
and a lot of opportunities with boundaries for sure from my perspective. Who do you think is like
To me, it's really clear, especially because I think that the brother forgot that he lied and said that it was an accident that his wife sold it on eBay. I think that he's just like, I borrowed this thing from my brother. He didn't ask for it back immediately. He must not need it. So I'm going to make a couple bucks on the side and sell it. And he's not even going to notice because he doesn't care. And I think he thinks that he's just going to keep doing that. And then when the letter writer said no, that to me, like I said this in the last hour too. I have a brother and sister. We're very close. I love them both dearly. We're adult people. We sometimes have disagreements. I would never in a million years mention a disagreement I had with my siblings in front of my mom, because I know that she's going to think that it's her job to fix it, because that's what she would have done when we were kids.
Sure,
And
that's
I
the
think
role that she's used to playing.
Yeah, that's the role she's used to playing. That's a good way of pointing it out. So, you have beef with your siblings. That's what siblings do. They get beef with each other. There's no one that you get more beef with than your siblings. Figure it out like grown-ups. Don't tell your mom. What do you think? What do you think's going to happen when you tell your mom that she's going to get involved? Any mom would do that, probably.
Yeah. I mean, I think so, but I also think that like it's the mom's responsibility to say back to like the son that took the camera equipment, like, my guy, talk to your, what the hell, what are you fucking talking to me? Like, if it was my kids, I'd literally be like, what the fuck are you talking to me about it for?
Yeah.
Go talk to him.
That's true.
Like, that's your goddamn thing. You're both adults, man.
Yeah.
Do you live with me? Do you pay your own taxes?
Right.
Call him. Get on the phone. Like, get the fuck out of here.
No, that would be the appropriate way to that would be the appropriate way for a parent of adult children to resolve that. I don't know how often that happens in reality, but I agree. Like, what does this have to do with me?
Yeah, literally.
I don't want to hear your beef. Hamster Man says, I would never loan that person anything ever again, for sure. Absolutely. And then also Hamster Man says, I audibly gasped the first time they said they sold it on eBay.
Just like, yo, let me give some perspective real quick, can I?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a friend that gave me a camera. I said, hey, I don't use this anymore. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to send this to you for free. And I was like, wow, that was very kind of you. Fast forward years later, I no longer use this camera. I haven't touched it in a while. I asked them before I sold it and then said, would you like me to give you the money from the sale? And they said, no, it's okay. You can totally keep it. I gave it to you a long time ago.
That is absolutely the right thing to do. That's not just the right thing to do. That's the classy thing to do.
Well, I like to think of myself as a classy.
Yeah, I think that you are. I would hope so. Like I have a never-ending collection, and Hamster Man 2049, I'm sure, knows all about this. I have a massive, ever-expanding collection of video games and video game technology. And so, like, I have a Xbox 360 that I was keeping around to play a really specific game. It got re-released on something else. I didn't need it anymore. But I wasn't going to get rid of it because it's my Xbox 360. I want it. My brother was over. He saw that I had it. He asked if I could borrow it. Of course, he can borrow it. I'm not doing anything with it. Definitely, I want it back. I don't know if I needed to articulate, hey, but I want that back, so don't sell it on eBay. To me, I feel like the bigger problem here is this person seems to be under the impression that the brother makes a lot more money. And that's definitely not true. Like, people don't sneak selling stuff on eBay if they don't need cash. Something else he's like a drug addict or something.
Yeah, for sure something else is going on. There's something else that there feels like there's a layer of like shame that is leading the brother to make some like yucky decisions, and not a fan.
Yeah. I use I use an online database program called Airtable to do like that's my video game collection, and also my vinyl collection goes in there.
Oh, cool.
And Airtable's free. It's really great. If you need if anyone out there has a collection that's kind of getting to the point where you can't keep in your head everything that you have, and you want to just have a really simple way of building a database, like a catalog, if you will, it's a good thing to do. And so when I lend someone a game, I have a little field. I was like, yeah, I lent this to Ricky last week. And so I mean, at least I remember where it goes. Maybe I've become overly materialistic in my old age, but I like my stuff. I worked hard to get it. And I don't just want people to sell my stuff, even if I'm not using it. If someone's gonna sell it on eBay, I'll sell it on eBay.
Yeah, I mean, I totally feel you on that one. I think like I've had to shift gears with that a little bit myself, just like personally with like us preparing for this big move out of the country.
Yeah,
So some of the things that like I was like, yeah, cool, of course I'm gonna keep this thing. When you're trying to like maneuver how many items you're gonna fit onto like a pallet that you're gonna ship, like across the
oh yeah,
ocean
you got to make all
to
those
you.
hard decisions.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's wild, man. But it's been really
eBay is
it's been
great.
really good. Yeah,
Sell it on eBay. Just do it yourself. So
that's what I've been doing.
let's change gears. Let's talk about that a little bit. So one of the reasons I thought to invite you on the show, because this is a conversation I wanted to have, because it's something that I think about a lot too, is I saw you made a post about leaving the U.S. The United States,
Yeah.
and a lot of parts of the United States is becoming very, very hostile to lots of different groups of people. And I think there's some pretty clear messages that people, LGBT people, aren't welcome anymore in big parts of the United States. And so I saw the post you made about thinking about moving. Is that for real? You actually, it's a done deal. You're actually heading out.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we have so we're uh my partner and I have been kind of like individually on these healing journeys, right? To like heal from and understand and like work through like our traumas,
Yeah.
like our individual traumas. And one of the things that we just like came to terms with and realized was like the only way to be different is to just fucking be different, which is it just sounds like simple, but if you're going to say that you want to do a thing, the only way that you achieve that thing is by actually
By actually doing it.
doing the goddamn thing,
Yeah.
right? And this is like probably one of the scariest things that like either of us will do in our lifetime. Maybe, hopefully. I'm not really sure. Actually, I don't want to put that limit on ourselves, but this is this is a really brave step that we're taking together. And it is something that I hadn't even imagined for myself before.
Yeah.
And now it feels like, I don't know, man. It feels like my life is going to be like limitless because once I don't know what your experience was like the first time you traveled outside the US, but I just did it recently. For my whole life, man, I've been scared to like leave this country. I don't know why. The only thing keeping me from traveling abroad was me up until I turned 40. But once I did it, I was like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing? Like, what is the thing that is in fact stopping me? Um, it just like you have to cut the cord at some point, and so we cut the cord. Basically, like our lease is up, and we're at a point where we have to decide, like, are we going to renew it, or are we going to is this the point where we get the big pair of scissors out and we cut it?
Yeah.
And that's where we landed.
I've become I've become kind of obsessed with reading about how the Nazis came to power. Like I read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, which is like a massive, massive giant book. I'm doing this audiobook biography of Hitler these days. I didn't understand at first why I was so focused on this particular part of history in a way that I never was before. And I think that subconsciously part of me is trying to learn lessons about what happened then so that I can better be prepared to know when it's time to leave here. My three of my four grandparents were immigrants. One was a refugee from Europe. The only reason I exist is because they either had the resources or the knowledge, or their parents had the foresight to know when it was time to leave. And the people that didn't know that had unhappy endings. And I don't think it's always appropriate. I think it's rarely appropriate to compare anybody or any place to 1930s Germany. But it certainly feels, it's starting to feel like that for LGBT people, and the type of vocabulary that people like Ron DeSantis is using is very similar to the type of vocabulary that the Nazis used. And I think we should all be terrified.
Oh, I mean, 100%. You know, like I think um uh this pride has felt like almost like a mourning
Yeah.
rather than a celebration, which is so strange to me. Um and it like hurts my heart. I think like there was a moment probably between I say like 2009 up until about 2016, like right before Trump entered the White House, that like
Hmm.
I felt progress, right? Like I felt like change.
Yeah.
And then we had this like step back with obviously you know, the rise of like MAGA Republicans, like that whole like ultra right somewhere past sense and reasonability has sort of like taken over. And this culture war has just been like amped up and amped up and amped up.
Yeah.
You know, the word woke means something different now. It's like this covert term for something really ugly that in terms of like how the right is using it. Um it's just so I came out when I was 15. I'm 40 now. In those 25 years of living as an openly like out lesbian, this is probably the year that I have been the scaredest to just exist as myself
Yeah.
in public. I mean, you know, just like with all of these, I just, it like hurts my heart to say that out loud. But it is true.
Yeah. And and I want to be clear also. I generally have a rule to try to avoid talking about politics on this show, but we're not talking about politics. Politics and morality are separate things. And
Totally.
policing people's just their right to exist the way that they want to exist isn't a political issue, it's a moral issue. I think all of the big debates we have as a country now aren't political. I'm still political. I'm politically engaged. I do research. I go out for the primaries. I vote every chance in every election that I can. One time for each election. But uh I don't think that people like in the public spaces, people aren't having political conversations anymore. We're only having moral conversations.
Yes, I mean, you know, I completely agree with you. And I think that when I see like this narrative of, um, I don't know, I mean, it feels like it's like a class war in combination with like a cultural war, you know, it's just like the culture war is to distract from the class war, if that
Yeah,
makes
that's what it's always been. I agree 100%. Big corporations don't pay taxes, get to do whatever they want to do. Rich people don't pay taxes, they get to do whatever they want to do. But the reason people get are convinced to come out and vote for those types of policies is because they're told that they should be terrified of drag queens or their kindergarten being taught critical race theory, which is nonsense. But that's what people do. I mean, but here's another thing I think that I've learned from all of these books that I've been reading about Germany in the 30s is that people know what lying is. Lying's not new. Lying's not a new invention. Lying on the internet, like misinformation on social media, isn't new. It's just a different way of lying. But people choose to believe in lies if it excuses a behavior that they already wanted to do. And
sense.
I think that's what we're seeing a lot here is people already want to be intolerant. People already want to be hateful. People already want to act violently towards their neighbors and sometimes even their family members. They already wanted to. So these nonsense lies, anyone can look into the world and see that the drag queen at reading hour in the library is not hurting anybody, but they want to hurt the drag queen. So they choose to believe the nonsense.
I think I agree with part of that. What I will say is I think that it's a weird way to phrase this, but again, been on a healing journey, values, indoctrination, like all of that. I think my partner and I have spent a lot of time talking about this because I get frustrated at the idea of like people being transphobic but supporting the gay community. And I'm like, what the fuck do you think the T is in LGBT? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, you'll wave the pride flag, but you're like, oh my God, like, don't let them in my bathroom. And you like, and so you think I'm going to sit there and not say something to you and tell you how ignorant and stupid you just sounded like in that moment. But the idea that people, because of shame, will only confront what they need to confront in those moments, right? Yeah. So like the idea that they grew up calling people ugly words, ugly names that are now today unacceptable, like they have to make space for that. They have to like confront that and say like, oh my God, when I grew up, I was intolerant because the people around me taught me ugly things and I didn't know to question that. But now, because my brain works and I don't live with those fucking people anymore and I have a phone that has access to the internet, I can just like look up and see like, what are drag queens? Are drag queens the devil? No, they're not. Incredible. Like, wow, I could watch RuPaul's Drag Race and see like that they are performers, they're entertainers, not groomers like some of these people are claiming. It's just yeah, man, it's wild to know that like RuPaul's Drag Race can be on one of the biggest networks out there, right? Like MTV, VH1, it's switched networks, can be all over Peacock's like main streaming, what have you, can bring in subscribers like that. And at the same time, drag queen reading hours are being like actively protested by armed militia style groups. It is terrifying. It is truly terrifying. I'm actually worried about tomorrow with that being said, but
what's tomorrow?
Are you serious, Jeremy?
Yeah, I don't know what tomorrow is.
There's some stuff happening in Miami tomorrow.
Oh, right, of course.
Yeah. So
I didn't realize that was tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, if I guess getting political for a second. Jeremy. Yeah, I agree it is. And it's a scary time to be in. If I thought for a second that anything bad was going to happen to Trump, then maybe I would be concerned. But it'll probably be over tomorrow. We'll send him home. The judge that's seeing him is he appointed the judge. So the only thing I don't like to even talk about on the show because it's supposed to be a space of growth and insight. But I'll say the only thing I'll say about Trump is he's a very old man. He's lived a very public life for a very long time. He's always been a crook. He's always gotten away with it. The idea that somehow he's going to get busted this time is nonsense. It ain't going to happen. He's always gotten away with it. And he's gotten away with all kinds of crimes. So why is he going to get away? Why isn't he going to get away? How can anyone think that he's going to have repercussions for anything he's ever done? He doesn't, for sure. Anyways, let's talk about being outside, about leaving the United States. Because I went outside the U.S. for the first time, I guess about 10 years ago. Me and my and a couple friends from grad school went on a Euro rail through a bunch of different European cities. And now my wife is from Italy, so I've been a few times since then to visit family. And and I think it's tricky because when I go to other countries and I see so many things that I wish we could do. But then there's also things that we do here that are pretty great. And we need to make sure that we keep doing those things, because they could leave at any time. And I'll say, as a Jewish person, like I have strong feelings about why anti-Semitism is coming back in a bigger way than it has in probably since the end of World War II in the United States, but it never really went away there. And even though there aren't really any Jews in big parts of Europe because they were all murdered, people still don't like them. People still don't like me, and they don't have a problem saying it out loud. But for most of the time, and I am concerned sometimes that time is over, that people like me have done pretty good in the U.S. The thing, just kind of, I guess, changing the topic to something a little bit lighter. Here's my big food theory about the United States versus Europe. The United States, like in the days of when people first started to get on trains, people were going further away from their home more than they ever had in human history. And especially in the United States, big coast-to-coast country, people were traveling really far away. And so I think people had a lot of anxiety about food because they were so far from their wife or their mom or whoever cooked them meals. And they wanted to make sure that they could have consistency, that you get a whatever, steak and eggs on a train station in Idaho, and it's going to be as close as it can to that same steak and eggs at the train station in California. And so I think most of American food culture is about consistency. It doesn't need to be good, doesn't need to be fresh, it needs to be the same. And I don't think any other country has that type of relationship with food. And that's one of the things that makes me really sad. Because I think our food culture in this country is tragic, especially when you compare it to anywhere else. And but that's my theory as to why. It's because of people have this obsession with consistency more than anything else.
I think. Do you think that it has anything to do also with like fast foodification slash franchising?
Yeah, but I think that's
capitalism,
why
it's
that
called?
type of business is successful, is because of the consistency.
Mm.
I think it's the desire to have a consistent food experience is what makes places like McDonald's, national chains. You can't drive 10 feet without finding a McDonald's, and it's always going to be the same in every
Sure.
McDonald's, because that's what people want. McDonald's, they have no interest in making food that's good. People don't go to McDonald's because they want something even that tastes good. They want to go because it tastes familiar.
Yeah. I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that.
And
for
then
sure.
you go to a place like Italy where the food is so regional, and in Milan you have a dish there that you really don't see anywhere else. And then you go to Venice and they have dishes there that you don't see anywhere else either. It's the opposite of consistency. You don't even have like an option to get a different version of the same thing. They just don't do it.
Yeah, well, I think it also has to do, like the idea of if there are resources that we want that are in this country, like we have a huge country, we have access to, there's nothing stopping us from getting resources from Florida and bringing it to, well, shitty
Yeah.
example, but California. Whereas, in Italy, you may not be able to get those same resources in like the UK.
Yeah. Well, especially now that they're not in the European Union anymore.
Brexit.
See you later, Hamster Man. Thanks for joining us. Hamster Man says that he was glad to see you, Lauren.
Same here.
Yeah, sorry we got a little bleak there for a minute, but that's that's the world we're living in these days.
Well, I mean, I would say the ability to turn away from said bleakness is a privilege.
Oh, absolutely.
It is shared by a lot of us, but not all of us.
Yeah.
And it is because of that, is because of that fear, the changes that we've seen in this country, that Cassie and I want to step away and create a different experience for our family and for ourselves.
Do you, first off, thank you for calling me out on leaning on my privilege there, because I do have the ability, as a generally hetero-cis person, I have the ability to not think about that all the time.
Yep.
And I appreciate you pointing that out for me. So thank you. Do you
Yeah, no
do you
worries.
guys have a sense of where you're gonna end up?
We are heading to Costa Rica to start.
Okay.
So we need some time to like build our business to get like launched off the ground. But you know, like as you know, my friend, operating with a one child is a lot. Imagine two.
Yeah.
And with a dog as well. So we're gonna get landed in Costa Rica
Okay.
and hang out for a couple months. And from there, the plan is to apply for our visas in San Francisco. So we're going to travel to San Francisco, and then we'll probably end up back in Phoenix for maybe like 2 weeks or so, and then we'll be off to Portugal because in order to apply for our visas, we've got to have rent, like long-term rent for a place in Portugal.
Wow.
Portugal is where we, you know, like hope to really like begin that next chapter of our life. We're super
Okay.
excited.
I've never been to Portugal, but I've heard great things about it. My do your twins have passports?
Yes.
Yeah, our kid has a passport too. It's
Yes.
adorable. My wife has a U.S. and an Italian passport, and we can get our kid Italian citizenship easily.
That's awesome.
When we first got married, and I started looking into it, that all you needed to get Italian citizenship, if you didn't live in the United States and you didn't have a kid, we didn't have a kid yet, you had to be married, I think, for 3 years, and then that's it. And so we got married, 3 years went by, just was busy, didn't think about it, let some more time go by. Started to do the process like a year ago, and then saw that they changed the rules. And now you have to pass a fluency test. And I'm so terrible at languages. But that's what we got to do. We're at a point where we want to at least know that we can leave if we want to, is where we're at. But like I can't stress enough, knowing when it's time to leave is, like when we're talking about leaving the country that you've called home for your entire lives, we talk about leaving relationships or leaving jobs. Like both of us about a year ago left very stable, although difficult jobs. That's a really hard decision to make, is knowing when to leave. But it can sometimes be the difference between, I hate to be dramatic, but it can sometimes be the difference between life and death.
I don't think that you're being dramatic, which is like the scary part about it.
Yeah.
It is very interesting to me that while we do live in the same country, we live in very different parts of this country.
Yeah.
And while Arizona is on paper blue, or is on paper viewed as a more progressive space or a safer space right now for, like, let's say trans individuals or LGBTQ, just queer individuals in general, right? That is through the graces of very few individuals that are standing as walls blocking what would have been.
Yeah.
And it's just very interesting to me to hear that, while I think our day-to-day experiences and the public that we're interacting with are very different, that our fears that we share are mirrored, are almost exact. And I think what is also interesting to hear, and has just reaffirmed for me our decision to leave, is the question I'm about to ask you, which is, my friend, did you ever imagine in your lifetime that you would even feel that you would need to have the tools with which to identify the signs so
Yeah.
that you could know when it was time to go?
Uh, so I mean, yeah, I did. I think a big part of me didn't think. So I grew up in a pretty religious Jewish community, and there were a number of people in our synagogues that had been in camps in Europe and had survived. And
Wow.
we grew up with hearing their stories and seeing the numbers tattooed on their arms from a very young age. And for a specific type of Jewish person, even in the America that my parents lived in the America where my you know dad went to law school and became a judge, and there was a lot of economic and social and political success for Jews in that time period. We always had passports, and we always had them in a safety deposit box. We never went anywhere. My parents never traveled, and like I said, I didn't leave the country until um, 10 years or so ago. But the idea that things can turn, I mean, keep in mind that Jews in Germany had businesses, and they were lawyers and doctors, and they felt like they were part of that society, and their neighbors turned on them really fast. So a lot of people didn't have the time to go, or weren't able to see how dire things were getting until it was too late. But that was a big part of, whether it was realistic or not, that was a big part of the culture I grew up in, is this constant sense of there may be a time when we all have to leave. Even though that was very, the American Jews were very much, anti-Semitism went down in the United States because Israel was seen as an ally during the Cold War. And then when the Cold War ended, Israel was an ally in the war on terror, whatever that is. But no one cares about this. The Cold War is over, and whatever the war on terror was supposed to be, it's not going on anymore. And so we're not uh, we're not necessary for the right wing narrative anymore, and that's why anti-Semitism is coming back. Is it going to get so bad that we're going to have to grab a backpack and flee in the night? Probably not. I hope not. I don't think so. But it'll definitely be. I've already seen more intolerance and more slurs and more and less acceptance in just the last few years. I've seen that firsthand, not just on the media. And the bigger issue and the bigger concern is specifically trans people, and I think specifically trans kids are the people that are possibly at the biggest risk, or at least at a much higher risk than any kid ever needs to be. And I don't want to take the focus away from that, but I also think this country is moving to being a more dangerous place for Jews as well. I think it's moving to be a more dangerous place for everybody that's not aligned with this new type of extreme right wing worldview that we see everywhere.
I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yeah, I'm still not worried about getting shot in the back by the cops. I'm still not worried about being harassed, in a store if I want to go shopping places. I'm not, if I'm worried about not getting medical treatment that I need, it's because I can't afford it, not because I'm not allowed to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, this is a crazy, crazy
Yeah,
point in human history that we are experiencing. It's wild, my friend.
I know. Yeah, there was when I worked in uh when I'm always just a little cautious with the amount of specific information I share about myself. When we lived in our previous big city, and there was a big right wing march in that city, and I walked, I don't know, a good 4 miles to work every day, and the store that I worked in closed down. that day because they were worried about violence. It was right by where the march was going to be.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking my grandparents fled Europe to get away from these people. And then I'm going to be walking down the street in this country that was supposed to be welcoming for us, and someone's just going to murder me for no reason. And that would be, I'd almost laugh at that point. It would almost be funny how ironic that would be. Yeah, if I think for historical context, I think it's a bummer and it's hard to get through, but reading something like, and I can give you the details if you want to, reading something like this biography of Hitler and how he took over and what he did almost immediately, and how similar it feels to what's going on right now is just, it's bizarre. I mean, history repeats itself, but it really repeats itself.
Yeah, dude, I don't think it's bizarre. I think it's intentional.
Yeah.
And I don't
It's the same people.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I think it's absolutely intentional. I think that there is something I had a lot of fears when like Elon Musk purchased Twitter and what that would become versus like what it was. I feel like something very similar is happening to Reddit right now, where like
Oh,
in
interesting.
terms of, like places that I go, and I think a lot of people go for like as a stream of just like the face of the internet, like a source of like news. The same with like Twitter are now places that are not able to be accessed. And so like this unbiased peer reviewed content, right, is going away, and the information that we're going to be getting, it just feels like it feels scary.
Yeah.
It all feels scary, and yeah, I just our kids are going to be going into kindergarten this year.
Yeah.
And like we're scared to put them in school. Like we're not going to put them in a school in this country.
Yeah.
It wasn't an option. Like we are going to be homeschooling them while we are like abroad until we're settled in Portugal, and then we'll get them enrolled in a school there. But like it's just you're right, there are a lot of things this country does right. Like when we were in Portugal, seeing what the experiences would be like for our son who uses a walker. He has like braces that he uses for his legs to help him, like provide him the support that he needs. And then he uses a walker alongside that, or he has a wheelchair. And like there's no ADA type thing in Portugal.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
there's a lot of shit, especially in like Europe, that's old, that's not meant for like humans that have differently abled bodies. And it is it's like hard, it's like a hard thing for like my partner and I to like see, because it will be harder for us to travel to places, but like we're not going to accept that we can't.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that our country does that are awful.
Yeah.
And terrible.
Yeah.
And
Deadly.
truly
Yeah.
like having to explain to somebody the emotions that I feel like when I see a Confederate flag. Like what part of your brain as like a human cannot like put those pieces together? They're like, oh fuck, this is where that used to be. Like these two things are equivalent. Like of course you would feel concerned about that.
Yeah.
It's just the idea of like who our country is for and who it isn't for, and it's for everyone.
Yeah.
But it's like a part of a part of our population forgot that.
Yeah.
Or is rejecting that.
And it's a part of our population that always votes, and everybody else only votes sometimes. And I think that's the only reason they win, is because they always vote no matter what, and everybody else you know, if a candidate doesn't check all your boxes and isn't ideologically pure to your worldview, everybody else stays home.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been playing the long game for a long time.
Yeah.
And there's not one part of me that doesn't think that they aren't still. So um, a lot of the deep fears that I had personally, just around like what would occur, have all come to fruition.
Yeah.
And I've healed enough that I've stopped doubting myself when I think things, just trying to trust my intuition. And yeah, we're gonna get the fuck out of Dodge, man.
Yeah. We're almost out of time, so I just kind of wanted to wrap up to say it was really nice catching up with you. I'm glad we had the conversation that we had. You know, it's hard to face reality, and there's still a part of me, I think, that's really naive about America, partly because of a place of privilege that I have, and partly because of the story of my people, but specifically even just like my like actual like family
Yeah.
is a really great, it's the type of story that people want to think can happen to anybody in America, and maybe at various times it could have. It doesn't seem like we're in one of those times now. But being, you know, loving something also means that you have to be critical of it when you need to be critical of it. And we can do a lot better. You know, our kid goes to preschool in a synagogue. They got an armed guard there. And we looked at another preschool at a different synagogue and they didn't have an armed guard. And we're like, no, we're not going to do that one. That's the country that we're in. What?
Yeah, like this is America.
Yeah.
Like hashtag this is America.
We need to have an armed guard at the preschool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say this to you, my friend. The idea of privilege, like we all have our own privileges that we walk in. And, you know, like while my family was like a first generation, like I'm first generation on my mother's side, like American, and they had their own struggles. It was nothing like the struggles that like your family experienced or parts of your family member, like some of your family members experienced. And so you grew up from even what you just shared, having a much deeper awareness of the experiences of, you know, those survivors than I think most. And that is an awareness that you possess that is like unique and is something that I don't share. And so that is like my privilege, that I don't walk around knowing the things that you know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. And you know, I mean, and the things that I know are, you know, from almost all cases are third hand, maybe a few second hand. And hopefully that's the closest that anybody will be again.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, it's my bedtime, so we're going to wrap it up. Thank you. Our guests today were Ron Soltes in the first hour, and we're wrapping up here with Lauren Kelly. Thanks for joining us, Lauren. Thanks for joining Ron, if you're still out there, and for everybody participating. The advice stream is most Mondays, probably next Monday at 9 Eastern time. We're live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. Man, I kind of feel like, what's his name? I feel like we just did like a Larry King. Yeah, it was good. It got deep in a good way, in a way that I needed to. I'm gonna, when you're settled, we'll come visit in Portugal, because I've never been there and I really want to. Never been to Spain either, and that's, I think, been the highest on my list of places I have not yet been that I'd like to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should I mean, I can't imagine. The food of Portugal was incredible, and I know the food in Spain is just as damn good.
My favorite place I've been to in Europe that I actually think I would see myself maybe living there someday, almost certainly won't, is the Czech Republic. That's more my kind of place. It's cold, really? And everyone, it's just kind of like a whole country of New Yorkers, I think. Almost no Jews, though, unfortunately. All right. Have a good night. We'll be in touch. This was great, Lauren. I'm so glad we got to catch up. Be safe. Best of luck. And
Thanks, Jeremy.
we'll check in.
Sounds good, man. It was great being on. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Bye.
Bye.